Okay, so you've now got your basic scenery done, as you can see on here. Now it is time to work on ballasting the track. Now this is actually easier than it seems. It's just if you're working around track switches and crossovers and anything that has tiny areas that either move or areas that if grit gets into it's not going to work very well, then you have to be careful. Otherwise it's actually quite simple to do. So with the camera set up so you guys can get a better view, we're going to be using just our general Woodland Scenics ballast, this stuff, and use whatever you like. I mean, I know certain people like using homemade stuff, commercial stuff, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So in this case, we're just going to do a short section of track and this middle area in here as well. And the process is quite simple. We're literally just going to dump the ballast down onto the tracks. Don't worry if it looks somewhat thick, the top of the rails are covered. Don't worry about that. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly normal. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to take a paintbrush and we're just gently going to brush the ballast along the tracks. Now, some people like to bury their track in the ballast. Some people like to use minimal ballast. Do whatever you want. On mine, I've decided to go for more of a buried look, so I'm doing it as a two-part process. The first process is just getting a base layer down, going with that, and then coming along and putting a second layer on top. So do whatever you like the look of the most. In this case, this back area is going to have different colored ballast than the front area, so that's why I'm not ballasting it on camera, and you can't see it anyways. And don't worry if you don't have enough to cover a whole area in one go. That's perfectly fine. It's actually better to do scenery, in my opinion, in patches, so that way you can also maintain some sense of realism in terms of inconsistencies, things like that. So the process for bonding this is the exact same process as we used for the scenery. We're first going to start with our soapy water solution. We're just going to gently dribble this on here to break the surface tension. And as with the scenery, take your time doing this and overlap your passes. So that way the solution has time to soak in. It won't ball up or do anything like that. Okay, and like before, we're going to use our matte medium mixture. And we're going to dribble that all over the ballast. Only reason why I'm thinning it is I found it was a little thick the last time I tried applying it, so I figured a little bit of thinning probably isn't a bad idea. Again, spray bottle works good too. Also, I'm just going to sprinkle on a little bit of the blended turf here just to simulate some weeds growing up in between the tracks. Nothing very big or significant, just enough for the effect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit and we're going to let it dry, and then what we can do is we can come along and clean off the rail heads to remove any junk that has formed on the top. That's very easily done just with like a very mildly abrasive track cleaner. In this case it's a Kratex wheel, same concept, just gently rub it along the tracks, wipes everything off when it's dry, and it should be good. If you do notice that there are areas where stuff has built up in areas that the wheel flanges are going to hit, you can come along with an X-Acto knife or a toothpick or a little pick and very carefully pick away at it. I would recommend wearing safety glasses while doing that, and you should be good. I'm going to do a whole nother video dedicated to ballasting track switches, as these are actually somewhat difficult, as you don't want to bind up the mechanism with your ballast or your glue. So I'm going to put this guy outside in the hot Southern California sun, and it should dry relatively quick.